All right, guys, right there is what we got to take off. So I'm sticking my phone down here in selfie mode just to try and visualize the doggone thing. It's all going to be by feel because you can a mirror, because there's no way getting under the engine. So I was trying to tell you, see, you're supposed to look for an A on this thing. I don't know where you're going to see an A at. So anyways, when the bowl is on top, in other words, it's in there, when it's on top, you use the one gasket. When the bowl is on bottom, you use two gaskets. Okay guys, I'm going to show you why this is an absolute nightmare, okay? So, under our cover, there is our fuel pump right there, okay? And the bowl is down under here. That's where we got to put the filter, is right here in this fuel pump, right there underneath. Now, this is as far as my arms can reach. So, we're either going to have to take the back seat out, which is a lot of work, or I physically have to crawl my butt down in that space right there to be able to get to this. But this, you just see the stuff falling out in here. The junk. So I guess our gas is pretty dirty. And the water and the ethanol literally ate that up. Look at that. So it's sitting here like this. This is not supposed to just pop off. I'm not laying my pocket 2 down in that bilge. I hope you can hear me. That hurricane, what was it, Mitchell or something like that started with, it just went through, and the wind is something terrible. So what we're going to do today, we've just about got the boat winterized. One of the only things we have to do, we're going to let our gear lube, we always capture a little bit in a glass jar, let it sit for a couple days and see if we got any water in the bottom of it. So the last thing we have to do is we're going to change the gas filter that's on the fuel pump. And this is amazing. Last year it was $9.95. This year it's $13.95. So it went up $4 in a year. But imagine a lot of you haven't even changed your fuel filter. Look at this. I just wanted to show you how nasty, and it's also a water separator, but look how nasty, look how nasty it was. And the water in the bowl rusted this to the point that this fell off. So there's 2 different gaskets, and I'll show you to know how the difference is. What I think it is if the bowl is up, it uses this one. If the bowl is under it, it uses this one. And this little one right here, Problem is keeping that in place. And there's the spring that goes right there. And this is going to fill up with water like this. But on the ones that the bowl is upside down like this, it's not going to be able to capture water. And that's part of this thing's job, is to be a water separator. But I'm going to show you the difference in those two. Now if you look on the back of the new one, it says if there's an A right there, to use that one. And if there's no A or no marking, which I don't understand why they put an A there, no markings, you use those two. If it says Carter, you use that one. But what I'm noticing, if it's like this, you use the two washers, and if it's like that, you use that one. Before you change that filter, I do recommend you change this filter right here. And this is a filter that's a secondary after the primary one. And I wonder if this is going to focus, and you can see the crud. You can see the crud that made it through that paper filter. Also, when you put this one in, there's supposed to be a little washer that goes right there, a little gasket goes right there. After I fog the engine really good, I have no way of running this out of gas. There's no shut-off valve. After I change the oil, start it and run it, I get it up to operating temperature, and then I fog the engine. And then I drain the water out of the engine, and I let some of that mist fog settle out in there, and I always take the carburetor off. Okay? And when I take the carburetor off, I'm going to take it and I'm going to hold it upside down. I'm going to get all of that gas out of that carburetor. The other thing you want to do is run your accelerator pump, and you're going to see all kinds of gas is going to squirt out when you do that. So, and turn it all different directions, get all the gas out of the carburetor, and you'll never have to rebuild a carburetor. If you do need to rebuild a carburetor, I rebuild these for $100. They're pretty simple. And if you have a carburetor that needs rebuilt, send it to me and I'll do it for $100. So the other thing I'm going to do is, once it's off, I'm going to take carburetor cleaner on a paper towel, and I'm going to wipe any carbon off behind the jets right here. Clean this out really good. And if you don't know about setting these carburetors, see that little square slot? You want a square slot right there. That's how you know that your mixture right there, that little idle circuit, see that little piece of brass needle sticking out there? That's how you get that. This gasket, I haven't replaced that gasket. I've never replaced it. Whenever you take the carburetor off, before you put that gasket back, you want to take that gasket and spray it with silicone, aerosol silicone. And if you spray the gasket both sides, let it dry, and when you put it on here, it will not stick to this or the intake manifold, and you can use the gasket over and over and over again. Okay, but the point of this video, or this section of the video, is right here where your fuel line goes in. You want to take this loop, you want to take this out. This is where your fuel filter goes. Right like that. And the open side goes in there. And then the spring goes against the open side, and there should be a washer right there. A lot of people don't realize that there's a fuel filter right there. When you put that new filter in there, you're going to screw this down so it's hand tight. Now, taking this carburetor off is real simple. It's just 4 mounting bolts that are 7/16. Your throttle linkage right there, your TKS connector right there, just take that loose, and your fuel line. That's all there is to take this carburetor off. And that's how you I got videos on how to properly adjust that. takes a special tool unless you want to pop that out. So this is a MerCruiser TKS. TKS stands for turnkey start. You'll note that that's the TKS right here. There is no choke. See, there's no choke butterfly valve there. That's what this thing does. It lets, oh, and you got to take this hose off. This is the back side of the fuel pump. In case the fuel pump diaphragm fails, it'll go into the carburetor instead of your bilge. You probably don't have a wrench big enough, but once you mount that carburetor, you're just going to take a crescent and tighten that really tight. It takes quite a bit of force to get that where it needs to go, but then you're going to put the other fuel line on. So with the new fuel filter, I know these filters come when you do a rebuild kit, and I guess that did not need to be changed. It's still got plenty of surface area to try and filter and catch stuff, but I think what happens, and this was very hard to get out, is the ethanol in the gas starts eating this plastic up, and I really had to, it was hard for this to pull out because this is swollen from the ethanol. Oh, and the other thing I'll show you in a minute is, notice how this comes painted, and the ethanol ate all the paint off. There is nowhere around here to buy ethanol free gas. There's no recreational gas. You're just stuck with running 10% alcohol through your boat. There's no other. Our gas has to be reformulated here. Oh, guys, I just don't. You need to put safety wire on it. I just can't film this with it in the bilge. It's like I can't do it. But you need to put some kind of safety wire. But I could not film doing this because there's no. Another little tip, guys. I always take bowstring wax and go over my zipper on any of the boat covers, and I get that lubed up real good for the winter, mainly where the zipper goes on right there. And I just use some bowstring wax. If it's good enough for my Matthews, it's good enough for this boat, but I put on a gloved hand and just rub that wax in real good. This is what you need to remove that carburetor. 1/4-inch drives, thumb ratchet, it's not tight, and a swivel for 2 of them, 11mm 3/8 for the throttle cable, the ratchet. We need a 5/8 line wrench. There's the little washer that goes inside. It goes right inside of right here. I don't think I was showing that earlier, but that's where that washer goes. No, right here, inside the cap, right there. All right, another little tip is these things get hard to remove when you're winterizing it. So what I always do is take a little tiny dab of lithium grease. When you take these off, there's a little O-ring right here, and I'm gonna put a little bit of lithium. I usually way overdo it, but I'm gonna go around this with some lithium, and lithium will hold up to the water and won't just wash away like grease will. Try it. You put lithium on there and those things I just slid that back on. Watch how easy this is. See, it just comes right off, and then when you go to put it on, watch this. Just like that. Just lubricate it. You don't want to use motor oil because that'll eat your O-ring up. The thing I use lithium on is the propeller shaft, and I don't take it off every year, but I've seen people that don't take their propellers off, and then they end up getting seized on there. But if you put you cover that shaft with lithium, it will not come off in the rain. I bought this lithium grease like back in the 90s, and I'm still using it. Because you don't use that much, you just use a dab. Another place you should put lithium is right here. So this literally goes right there on the inside. So whenever you loosen this, I didn't know I was going to make a video. If you don't have a wrench big enough, you just take a crescent, okay? But you need to keep this, when you loosen this, you need to keep that from turning. I've done that with transmission lines and ended up twisting the line. And this takes a 5/8 line wrench. Just like that. So when you're loosening it, you're going to have one hand holding the crescent wrench and the other turning this loose. And when you tighten it at the opposite. But once you get that snugged up, you can take your crescent wrench loose and make sure that's tight. I have, and the first couple times I go out on the river, I am going to take this line wrench with me. It's a 5/8. I have before gone out and had a gas leak here because I didn't get it tight enough. I was afraid of rounding it off. When you first start it, and then after you go for a while, you want to take your finger and run along here and make sure you don't have any gas. Gas leak on a boat is not a good thing. So make sure you use a line wrench like that. You do not want to round this off. If you round this off, you're replacing that line all the way down to the fuel pump. And I always keep the carb covered up. Fall, leaves, and all kinds of crap's falling out of the trees right now. And it's really windy, and you don't want like a leaf or a piece of a leaf going down in there. And once I put the breather on, I just cleaned it. So I want it to dry for a couple days. So I make sure that it's clean. I just clean it with Dawn dishwashing liquid and let it dry really good. But it's 40 degrees right now. It's inside the house drying. Once I put the breather on, I'm also going to cover it with Walmart bags and tape around the bottom, just because I don't want any kind of moisture, dampness. Even though it's fogged, I want to seal it up, and it just takes a second, and Walmart bags are free. Okay guys, I have taken this to a boat mechanic and asked him before. See if it shows up. If it's showing up or not. But see the different color? But yet he turns it like this and looks and says, I don't see no water. But see the way that gear lube separates? See that color change? And he tells me that's normal. Trying to get rid of glare. I don't know. Comment below. Is that water? And that's what I suspected, but he said it separates naturally like that. He told me in the bottom of his 55-gallon drum it'll look like that in the bottom. But I find it interesting when you turn it. See the way it holds fast? I don't know. Tell me. I mean, I don't see any water droplets. But why does it separate? And why does it hold straight instead of flowing with it? You know what I'm saying? I just think it's a good idea to do this anytime you drain your gear lube. I want every bit of gear lube out of this lower unit before I refill it. Now, I drained this 3 days ago, put the plug back in it, and I just pulled it again. I'll leave it tilted up, and look how much oil came out. This is 90 weight gear lube. Really slow coming out. You want to tilt it up like this so any water that might be in there like this is going to drain out. But of course you want to put it all the way down when you fill it back up. Same way with the engine oil. I let it sit. I drain it, let it sit overnight, and then let it drain some more. You drain it right there off your bilge plug.